So, welcome everybody to the May 13th Message Center announcement. This takes a look at basically the many different announcements that happened. And since we haven't met for a little while, I'm trying to cover as much as I possibly can, but really focusing on the last, I'd say 3 or 4 weeks, the big things that I've seen that might be interesting for you. So they're all over the place today. So we're going to jump through this as far as different pieces of the pie, so to speak. So this first thing is going to be a Teams admin side of things. We have a few Teams ones this particular month, but we actually have a smattering of some SharePoint ones that I was interested in seeing that's coming out as well. So let's focus on Teams Admin Center coming out here early June to early July. They're moving and actually creating a brand new node in Teams Admin Center for managing settings and policies. So basically, it's going to be a navigation area where you can find all your policies that you across all of Teams, right? It's not just apps or meetings, it's also Teams Voice or other areas. And so it's very quickly to get around to those and get in there. And the functionality is not changing behind the scenes, by the way. It's just being able to easily get to them from an admin perspective. So make sure you let your admins know this is going to be available. Again, take a looking at the dates. Make sure you're seeing the dates here. Commercial June to July, and then GCC, GCCH, and DoD, early September to late September. Jump into SharePoint. Here's one of my first SharePoint ones that I have. There's a new banner web part that's coming into the Teams pages and news articles that you guys are utilizing within SharePoint online. Specifically, you're going to be getting this 2 new banner options, right? So you're going to have an author and a fade. And if you don't see those, those are sitting right over here in the layout section. Additionally, with this, you can choose if you want no banners at all, right? So typically what you're going to see is when you do have a banner in there, then the title that you throw into that banner is the title for the page, right? So with this, there's a little bit of a change. If you don't have any banners in there, you're going to be able to go up to that title and make that change up there. Or if you do still have a banner, right? If you want multiple banners in that page, it'll take the first one and then sync it to the page title, just so you know that that's happening. Make sure your end users know that this change is happening, because it's going to be a big one if they choose to go that route, no banner versus having a banner in there. Back to Teams. So this is happening here across the board here in early June. Actually, you're going to start seeing this targeted, and then mid-June to late June for commercial. You see GCC and other government areas there. But this is a new file preview in the messages. So if you go in and add these files, even a link to them, you're going to get that preview. We've seen some of that before, but now we're going to get really a much better look at that file before you actually click on it, right? So this is going to work for PowerPoint, Word, Excel, PDFs at this point. I haven't seen it with images yet, but that's a possibility. If a recipient does not have access to that particular file, it would be marked as confidential on their end, right? And the image previews will not display, which is great, right? We don't want them to be able to see some of the information if it's supposed to be confidentiality. Make sure you let your end users know, and there's nothing that you need to do to configure or manage this behind the scenes. All right, let's talk about Viva for a second. So I think this is an interesting feature that's coming out here, and it should already be rolling out for those who are in targeted, right? So May already, but then worldwide, late May into June. So think about that fact that you may be looking at meetings, and a lot of organizations take a look at meetings and how many meetings you are involved with, right? So there's a cost involved with that. And this is really for your management teams to be able to go through and really understand how much money am I putting into these high-end meetings that have a lot of people in it, right? Larger meetings, if that's the case. And what can we do to be more efficient? So it's going to be helping with that kind of conversation in here. So make sure you're understanding let your managers know that this is a part of the Viva capability to be able to get more insights of what's happening on those large meetings. All right, keeping on with Viva, and the only reason why I'm bringing this up now is because the next step is a lot of you may be going into Copilot. You've been asking for Copilot for a lot of our sessions. We've been delivering some of those sessions. Maybe you're on that path, but how do you know Copilot is really helping the organization out? Microsoft Viva is bringing this here. Already started rolling out. It's going to be done here mid-May. But the ability to be able to actually have that dashboard that allows you to see how many Copilot users have been doing things, how many hours have they been putting in, and then what is that, especially on the Copilot side, what is that net, so to speak, right? What are the total Copilot assisted hours that you can see that you're actually saving time and energy depending upon what they're doing and where they're using it. And you have the ability to deep dive into it and get more details, right? So that's coming out here shortly. And in fact, Michelle and I were on a session last week, and kudos to her and the team for putting that together, that talked about this and showed a little bit about some of this stuff. That's great. Great addition to being able to justify that cost for around new products. All right, jumping into the admin center, we have a new area specifically that's coming out, and it's a public preview first. Public preview, early May to late May. You can get yourselves signed in to be able to do that, and then they're not telling us when it's going to go GA. But think about this. So how many of you go ahead and just, you don't have to do your raise hand, but just show your thumbs up or clap or even a heart. How many of you had to create your own email campaign when it came to user adoption in Microsoft 365? I should see a lot more. Come on, guys. You should be doing user adoption in your 365. All right, there we go. That's it. That's it. Go ahead. All right, good. Thank you. So now they are giving you the ability to do what's called an organizational message that then pops up on your computers. Right. So, and or point of location, like if you're in Word, Excel, PowerPoint versus on your desktop, you're going to be able to do the short form type communications, being able to, an example you see down here, right? That's just a message pop up in Windows 11 that you can create and say and give more details, right? You want to be able to have a link to go and get more information on it, something, right? Could be part of your campaign to get those users to utilize whatever you're trying to do, right? So in this area, once it's available, it's going to be in the reports area. You're going to be able to go and create that free form message, right? So that there's going to be an approval workflow that's going to allow you to be able to get approvals for it before it goes out, scheduling, configuring, hey, I want to send it out to these individual groups, right? So group-based targeting if needed. And then reporting on the message delivery. Who was able to get it, who actually clicked on it, those pieces of information is going to be available for you in helping out with getting that message out. Okay. The post actually goes through and says these are the roles needed to be able to do this. So please make sure you take a look at that message center post to get more details on how that's going to work. Jumping back into Teams for a second. Introducing the slash commands in your compose box. So if you're, a lot of us like keyboard shortcut commands, and this is kind of that extension within that Teams chat area to be able to have some of these capabilities. Things like I want to put a block code in there, right? Example, or I want to put a loop, or if I want to just go and navigate the settings, I can do that pretty quickly with that slash command to get there, right? Quick tip, slash, just let it go and then see all the other options. These are examples that they had in the message center post, but there's going to be a lot more that you can use. Make sure you let your end users know that this is something that's happening. And it is going out here for targeted in May, but then worldwide, it's really targeting in June for your end users. Yeah, Joe, I think that's almost right. Yeah, throw back to Lotus. Wow, I haven't talked about Lotus in a long time. All right. Another SharePoint option. New section level content alignment on pages. So if you do have sections that you're utilizing within your pages, to be able to have it across all of them or the same look and feel, you'd have to go into individual ones. Now this is actually going to go across all of them that are in that, right? So it's going to be for those when you have 2 and 3 column scenarios versus one, is you don't need to do that across one. You're not going to see that context menu pop up unless you have more than one column in there. So keep that in mind. But this is happening now. It's happening mid-May to the end of the month. All right, so for those who are utilizing Teams, town halls, and webinars, one of the features for both of these tools, these events, is the ability to be able to automatically email people out. However, there's a lot of companies that utilize third-party platforms to be able to do that email. And so what the request is and what this feature is the ability to disable those emails so they don't go out, and you can use that third-party platform, right? So you toggle it off, and you'll see in the screenshots that this side, all those emails are not available. They're not going to go out automatically, right? So for webinars, that would be when somebody signs up, then they get an email that basically that confirms it and gives them the ICS. That's all going to not work because we toggle that off and disabled that capability. And that's in Town Hall as well as in webinar Teams event templates. All right, just a few quick mentions that I think is important. There is something coming out for Teams presence. So the ability right now by default, if you're in Do Not Disturb, or when you're in Screen Share, you're automatically to Do Not Disturb. Okay, you can disable that if you choose or need to have that in a particular scenario. Right, that's happening here in June, and then available in July. Another one I think is important is explicit consent for recording data in audit logs. So currently, all that information from a consent perspective is not available for us from an administrative perspective to be able to go in and say who actually did consent or did not consent for this recording. So we have that documentation. That's coming out here in May. Sway, I don't think I've ever had an update for Sway, and I actually use Sway. I like it. I think it's a great tool. But there is going to be a change in the audio video piece to Sway where you're not going to be able to upload the video or audio files directly in there. You're going to use embedded features to be able to do it. So if you have that video out on YouTube, or if you have that video out in Stream, right, then you can then grab that embed code and add that into that page. Keep in mind, though, if it's internal Stream video and it's an external, right, viewer, they're not going to be able to see it because they'd have to have permissions to that video content. So you have to keep that in mind. API for SharePoint pages is GA at this point. Another thing I thought was interesting, and I just had a friend of mine talk about that they had to rename their tenant, right, their SharePoint tenant. This is actually coming to SharePoint Advanced Management, or SAM capabilities, and that's available now, right? So to rename your entire SharePoint domain, and it will update all of the links and everything in there, that's actually a part of that package now. And what was the other one? Oh, another one, the last one, SharePoint Online archive feature for inactive sites on SharePoint Online. I don't know about you, but that was like one of my nemesis. We had way too many SharePoint sites that were not being utilized. Now you're going to be able to do that through the SharePoint Admin Console as well as PowerShell to be able to actually see which ones are active and not, and then get rid of those, right? Inactive, knock them down, put them in archive, right? Some updated messages. There's some really, there's some good ones in here. One of them I want to call out because I deal with this a lot. Co-organizer experience, which was going to happen here in June, by the way, is pushed out to October and November now. So they're not quite ready, and that's going to be allowing you to have, as a co-organizer, all the exact same capability as somebody who is the original organizer for that event, right, for that webinar or town hall. So that would mean being able to change the title of that particular event or even date or time, right? Right now, it's just the original organizer that can do that. A couple of things around transcripts to keep in mind too: download, delete, and view, right, in OneDrive, or the explicit consent piece for a transcript. That's all getting pushed back, so keep that in mind. And then just lastly, the admin action requirements. Don't forget about Teams live event retirement in September 30th. If you're not looking at Town Hall, for those internal type conversations, that would be where you would suggest you going. Talk to your Microsoft account team if that's the case. And then some updates as far as the classic teams, or I should say the new teams, the classic, right? So you have the classic timelines for end of support. This is a pretty lengthy message center post. I want to make sure from an administrator perspective, you're looking at this and understanding if you have not gone completely over to the new team side of things. So there's some really important details in there. Retiring of the Delve web. If you've never heard of Delve, then don't worry about this. But December 16th is going to be that date. And then the ever elusive, we got to get rid of InfoPath. That's happening here July 14th, 2026. I'm going to continue to say InfoPath, I think, until that thing's gone. With that, I think that's everything I have on my end.
Wow,
Michelle.
that's great. Yeah, I still can't believe that we are even talking about InfoPath. But I get it. I get it. There are some industries, there's definitely, financial industries, there's education, there's so many that still need a path from InfoPath.
Absolutely. I think what wasn't one of our board members talking about dealing with, I think Pete was talking about it at one time. He was still dealing with InfoPath. So yeah, it's out there. It's still happening.
Yeah, that'd be great, Chris. Let's go ahead and get a.
I want that. Please, as soon as possible, Chris.
Yeah. And you know what? If now let's just put it back on everyone. If you really want to know about InfoPath and you're working on something, let us know in the survey, because we'll be happy to find someone. I'm sure there's somebody out there that can help with InfoPath information. If you really, really, really want that to be like one more topic at our user group, that'd be hilarious. But I'm sure we can find somebody for you.